Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and this is, I guess, technically my first Runeterra video. I've been playing it kind of for like the last 2 weeks or so, and if you don't know my history with card games, I played Hearthstone for like 3 years and got really involved with that, and so I'm kind of familiar with how digital card games work and that kind of stuff. And they definitely have like a lot of to compare and contrast to physical card games. But yeah, I've been playing this one a lot, and they released a new patch, 1.2. That's going to be for the next four weeks, I believe. I think they say that they patch the game every month just to say, make some tweaks on what they feel like card power should be. And I think like that kind of thing for a card game is kind of unique and only for digital card games, right? We get like ban lists for Dragon Ball Super and other physical card games, but they're usually like spread over like a couple months, and mostly because we don't get the same data for physical card games as we do for digital card games. Digital card games, they can monitor all the games, see how many people are using what and what have you, and when are game ending and like all that kind of stuff. So they kind of have a better idea what kind of cards are being used and maybe are overused or underused in that kind of sense. So yeah, so we're going to just talk over what's going to happen in this patch. I'm still getting familiar with the game, but I think I have a good idea of the implications for a lot of these, and just kind of my thoughts of how digital card games are balanced compared to physical card games. So let's go to their notes. All right, so I guess first of all, if you don't know, there's also like some free stuff. If you go to their store, like in the game store, there's like some bundles you can get for 0 coins. So don't forget to do that. But here are their notes. During open beta, we learned some important things about live design and balance. And we're using those lessons to add some additional metrics to our existing arsenal we use to help decide what change and how we do it. And since we have some new players, like me, I guess, I'll first recap our existing goals and metrics, and then cover what's new. Our overall goal for live balance remains to maintain a fair and diverse metagame where every champion's gameplay dreams can be realized. It's important to note we don't expect all champions to be equally competitive at the highest level. However, we do want achievable gameplay moments for all of them. And I think that's a really good, like, it's impossible to balance something where everything is the exact same power, but I like the idea that if someone likes a champion enough that they can be successful with it. And that's kind of like how in like a lot of fighting games, right? Not everyone has to be like competitively viable for fighting, like the best character in a fighting game, but if someone really does like either a character or a play style, I really do like that idea that of course you can support your character, and with enough time and practice you can still achieve a lot of success. So in order to achieve this, we will continue to update cards for balance once a month, every other patch. In order to cultivate a healthy metagame over time, we're deciding on changes. We look to a number of metrics with particular key ones, including individual card win rates, deck win rates, and champion play rates. We also want every card to have a home, which taken with the above framework helps us decide which specific cards to test and ultimately change. Now for Rising Tides, we're updating some of the internal metrics to better cover metagame health. For example, we have begun to looking at top meta decks over time to evaluate how well they've been successfully test players' skills, such as within game decision making, deck building skills, adaptability, etc. Similarly, we're more broadly analyzing which parts of the meta are occupied by top decks in order to help inform changes that encourage a wide variety of competitive archetypes. Thank you for continued feedback for making Runeterra better, and we hope you enjoy the changes below. So going through the changes, so I guess the first thing is for all the champions that they changed, I've either seen too much of them or I've literally never seen them before. So first of all is Vlad. They changed his level 2 for, they changed it from, for each other attacking ally, deal 1 to it and the enemy Nexus, but now it deal 1 and drain 1 from the enemy Nexus. So while this patch is focused on number changes, Vlad has been falling short of the play rate, gameplay satisfaction, and champion resonance level we strive for in our champions. So we're making a little bit more complex change by making Vlad's level 2 affect a drain, in addition to making Vlad's feel more like a life-draining battle mage. This change should provide Vlad decks with additional utility and more exciting and impactful payoffs for his level up requirements. So I don't really know if like this is most of the changes you'll find out on this is they're just changing numbers, and mostly either how much mana cost a card is, how much health it has, or how much attack it has. So Vlad was interesting. I guess the biggest thing is that how are Vlad decks losing? Like, well, one, who's playing it, right? And changing dealing 1 to draining 1, I'm not sure if that is like impactful enough to make the card better, especially like In this game, since I don't know, it's weird because like 20 is such a low health compared to like Hearthstone's 30, or in Magic the Gathering you can go above 20 health. So I feel like a lot of times you're either in between, like you're at full health, half health, or zero health, right? There's like no, or you're dead, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if the making it a drain is going to make it more viable. I mean, especially like if you're trying to get like a swing back, if your opponent's being really aggressive and you're trying to be like a mid-range control deck, getting all this drain, draining their life and getting a bunch of health back can help you survive and get that little tick to get over what you weren't surviving. But I guess we'll just see what happens. But I mean, it is a buff, so that's definitely nice. Next up, we've got Karma, and a lot of people are complaining about her, and I think for a very good reason. They pretty much changed her level 1 and level 2 from 5 to 6. We want Karma to be both more difficult to protect and more taxing in your immediate available mana, so we're bumping her cost to put more constraints on what else players can do on the turn they play Karma. So I think this one makes sense in a lot of ways, and it's not just because, you can see like a bunch of, like, I don't know, changing the costs for something higher I feel is a really kind of easy nerf to do, like, oh, it costs more, so it's strictly worse, right? But I think it makes more sense for, like, it actually makes sense for a card like this because this is like a combo piece. And so if you make the combo a little bit more expensive, it's going to be a little bit harder to do, or in some cases impossible. So best case, you have, 7 more mana to play when you play this on the first turn. So that's definitely, like, I think that's a good balance for her. Just making her either extending the turn that she's viable, one, or just making it difficult to pair the cards that you really want to play with her, right? Even though there's like a lot more counterplay in this deck, or in this game compared to Hearthstone, because in Hearthstone, if it wasn't your turn, you can't do anything. You can only do stuff on your turn. But since you're able to flip back and forth and make responses, it is like more interactable for cards like this. But still being able to just play this and then just immediately play like a burst spell that you're able to cast double now, like I think that just makes it very very strong, and being able to make it a little bit more difficult, and making her like one more turn to get out even, I think makes sense. So I think this is a good call, and let's go down to Shen. So they say Shen has been among the least played champions for some time, and I have never seen him, especially as he tends to require including Demacia in your deck to really shine. For now, we're boosting his power to make him more of a threat on his own and easier to plan profitable attacks around. So he's just like a 4-drop that when he swings, you support his supported ally gets barrier, and when he's seen 4 allies gain barrier, he levels up to his 4/6. And when an ally gets barrier, it gives it +3 for the round. I'm not sure. I don't know. Like this is when I'm thinking, like, okay, this card isn't performing a little bit, is a little bit lower. We're just going to increase it by a little bit and see what happens, right? And this is definitely like the safe thing to do. And obviously, once again, Shen's gotten better, right? Because it's a 3/5 instead of a 2/5. So I think people probably try him again, but it's going to be interesting if it's just he doesn't have like a lot of protection on his own, and I think like maybe, I don't know, giving himself barrier for the turn I think could help him just survive a little bit as well, because he gets barrier for the turn, and then your next turn you have energy open up for some protective spells to make sure he lives for longer. I don't know. It just seems like he's a bit clunky, and honestly, I don't think like his level up is that impressive. Sure, you get a lot of like boost and power, and you pretty much give an ally +2 and barrier, but that's not, and it's a 4/6, so it's not like crazy for that. But we'll see if that's enough to help him out as much as he needs. Next up, we've got Vi, another nerf, and I think this one makes a lot of sense. So while Vi doesn't offer a particularly game-warping effect like some champions, she's overperforming in multiple decks due to her raw strength of her baseline stats. We want to adjust her to be less of a generalist, best-in-slot champion for Piltover and Zon, while retaining most of her power in decks that synergize with her kit. Yeah, she just has a lot of keywords, honestly, and like if you get her turn 1 and then you play her on turn 5, she's like a 6/5. and she also has Challenger and Toughness. So I think she just has a lot, too much stuff going for her. So her becoming a 2/4, I think is much more impactful, especially since like a lot of the decks that were playing her, they don't have any like healing mechanic for her, right? Just the idea for her is just to be like a sticky champion to get rid of, and she's really good at removing other champions as well because she has Challenger and can easily become like a 6/5 or like a 10/5 without like just doing the stuff you're wanting to do anyways. So I think this is a good nerf for her. I think it's fair as well. It is just tweaking a number, as I think most of the rest of these are anyways, but just the fact that she's going to be a little bit easier to kill, like even though it's -1, it's still really important for toughness because that's like -2 to her health in a lot of ways. And you can go over and say, oh, this is actually such a big nerf because she really does require that health to be able to get a couple priority targets out of the way. So I think she had she's being overused a lot in general, and I think this will put her down to more of an approachable tier. Next up, we've got Hecarim, who also got power, and I've literally not seen this champion being played ever either, so definitely needs a boost. Hecarim's stat line makes it a bit too difficult for him to find profitable attacks, so we're bumping his power to keep him his power to keep him attack into... That's right, so we're bumping his power to help him, there we go, attack into more board states and improve his gameplay satisfaction overall effectiveness. So I think that makes a little bit more sense. Like he's important for he needs to attack for his stuff, right? So it's important for him to be a 5/5 instead of a 4/5, and 5 is like a pretty big bump from 4 to 5. Like even because now he can kill Vi, right? Otherwise, when Vi was a 2/5, he was a 4/5 and we'd have to attack into Vi twice. Now he's a 5/5 and Vi is a 2/4, so he can swing into that and be fine with it. So that might help him a bit. Just comparing it to how Shen was, I don't know, Shen just needs to be around for a while. That's kind of his thing. And I mean, 5 health for a 4-drop I think is great, but I don't know. I feel like he should be able to, I don't know, if he had barrier for the turn, that'd just be better because he doesn't have a lot of protection. And especially since he has to see stuff get barrier compared to Hecarim, you just have to attack with ephemeral allies, which you can just do whenever he's in the deck. So we'll see on that, but I think this is fine for him. And now for the more neutral stuff. So we have they definitely kind of toned down Scout, and I definitely feel like it's been a bit overpowered, but it's also they buffed this guy, so we want to see more Grizzled Rangers, former power, see below, up to the curve. Okay, there we go. So giving dedicated Scout decks more viable options. Of course, this is also a slight buff to Remembrance when you put it on your Great Horn. So he just becomes a 5/5. I mean, a 5-drop 5/5 I think is fine stat-wise compared to like a 6-drop 5/5. I mean, I think Scout's just a really powerful effect too, just being able to push and scout stuff. So I think that's fine, and the fact that they are nerfing this guy I think will help. Just the balance of being able to say, okay, this later game Scout is better, so we have to nerf this. We want to nerf this other guy. So Grizzled Ranger is among the most value-heavy followers in the game. Not only is it resilient, but Scout allows the Ranger to push a ton of damage, force opponents to make suboptimal trades, and ultimately allow Demacia players a mid-game advantage that we've been feeling is a bit too free. Reducing Ranger's power and loyal badge bearers to allow players more flexibility in counterplay and deciding when and how to block him. So I definitely agree. The fact that this 4 has 8 power associated with it, I think is kind of silly. On top of this has Scout. So, it's such a super value play on turn 4. Just play this, which is a 4/1. Swing with it. Even if you kill something, that's fine because then you get a 3-drop out of it, right? So this is 7 energy that you're getting 4. You're only paying 4, and I think that's just was super crazy. And when you're looking at the stat lines, it was an 8/5 for 4 energy, and you get 2 swings. So I think tuning it down is a little bit is the right idea. And making a 3/1 I think makes sense as well. I would have even accepted maybe a 2/1, but it is a 4-drop. You're investing a lot of energy for it. So I think that kind of makes sense. This is definitely whenever your opponent played this on curve, you felt really bad about it, and you're like, okay, do I get rid of this guy? Because even if I don't kill him, he's another, like, I either kill him, and you normally have to make a really bad trade for it. And even if I don't, I'm getting another 4 attack coming in later because he's scout. So I think that makes a lot of sense and helps kind of make it a little bit less, I don't know, powerful. And real quick to him, so he becomes a 3/4 from a 4/4. This change overlaps the one to Grizzled Ranger, though Badger Bear, has proven problematic on its own, particularly in expeditions, where he's pushing Damashi's general strength and raw stats a bit too far. Yeah, I get that too. So like in their expedition or arena, if you're from Hearthstone, the 3 energy 4/4 was a lot of value. Usually this could trade with 2 or 3 things. And strictly, you didn't really want to swing. Like, even if you couldn't kill it, it was really difficult to, want to defend against it and make suboptimal trades. So making a 3/4 to not only, nerf Grizzled Ranger, but make him a little bit more balanced in expeditions, I think is a good call. Laurent Chevalier, so he becomes a 3/2 instead of a 3/1. He's a 4-drop, so was a bit too fragile for its cost to realistically chase those dreams of multiple triggers. Deserves a boost on its own, and be given a good opportunity given that Demacia is seeing a few nerfs in this patch. So because Demacia is getting nerfs to Grizzled Ranger, which was probably the 4-drop that this was contesting in a lot of decks as well. But just being able to trigger this a couple more times could be pretty very snow slidey. What is the word? Ice. Oh man, I'm getting tired. But it could really just ramp out. So I mean, I think just making this more powerful and just contest like a 4-drop spot, I think makes sense. Standalone. Okay. I don't like this card, so standalone can lead to undesirable gameplay patterns, particularly when one player goes all in on one unit as early as round 3, leading to deterministic games that undermine decision making and turn too sharply on whether the opponent has the answer or is even playing the right region. We're pushing standalone's early game potential back with a cost increase that cuts off the ability to attack on round 3, which is a 3 cost unit plus standalone. Yeah, this was just dumb, and especially like on some of the 3-drops, you could just push this on it, and then you just have a pretty undefeated thing. Like especially like with Braum. Braum was definitely a good target for this, and I think like a lot of decks are just including Demacia just for this card. So to me, that just makes me think like, okay, maybe that should be scaled a bit. So yeah, but making a 4 is huge, just because you can always have like 3 energy is such an important energy cap for spells, because that means that on curve you could always potentially combo it with what you're playing on curve, right? So on turn 4 you could always play standalone as long as you have the 3 spell energy. So the fact that this is a 4-drop now, and now that you have to either wait another turn or you have to do it like below curve, I think makes this card a little bit better and a little bit more balanced as well. So especially because +3/+3 is such a big boost, and boosting, I think, and compared to Hearthstone, I feel like boosting a card's survivability is a lot more important, especially since you have cards like champions, and you want those to survive to get to their level up state, which wasn't as much of a thing as in Hearthstone. So I think making this a 4 makes a lot of sense. All right, so Legion Rearguard, it became a 3/1, which I think makes sense. But Rising Tides has introduced much more direct Nexus damage, and we're seeing a bit too much consistency and powerful variance in aggro decks, particularly for favorite matchups. We're making target adjustments to Legion Rearguard and Boom Crew Rookie to rein in some of their snow value power. When looking at the data for burner aggro decks utilizing Legion Rearguard, we saw that a round one Rearguard often gave decks a significant boost in win rate compared to other cards when played on curve. In the right decks, Rearguard provides too much punishment potential for simply a 1-drop, and we don't want players to feel so consistent and immediately behind with a round 1 answer. This adjustment also evens out counterplay to Rearguard among the various regions. Yeah, I think it makes sense. This was just too bulky, even though it has camp block, and that's a pretty big detrimental thing to it. I think having a 3 power on turn 1, which can get rid of most 2-drops and most 3-drops, 2-drops and 3-drops don't want to trade with this guy, can be really detrimental. So I think it makes sense and just a little bit easier to take care of. Also, you can't use what's her name? I don't remember, the Legionnaire bomb girl. So you can't pop this guy. You know, give it +3/2 or any of like just the fact that it has you can't have 2 health on this guy means you can't do the 1 health pings for aggro decks, and I think that makes a big difference as well. Kindly Chavin Keeper, so he's just become a 3/3 instead of a 2/3. I think that's fine. I don't really have much to say about this. I mean, I don't, healing is part of Freylorn's identity, but they also nerfed aggro, so who knows if this will be as much of a relevant card. But I mean, I guess they boost this card's power a little bit just because you don't want it to be, since aggro got dead and early damage is dead. You still want to run this card probably, but giving a bit of a boost kind of helps it keep around. Deep Meditation, this definitely is a card I think has been overused. So Deep Meditation provides too much overall value as its old cost because it's going from a 4 cost to a 5-drop, offering high redundancy and card advantage and consistent spell casting. While this card should be a high-performing dedicated spell decks, it was doing a bit too much all around, even as regularly cost floor. Given that Iona has a large variety of efficient and powerful tools, we want the high success access to we want the high access to them offered by Deep Meditation to be more difficult for general Iona decks to tap into. Yeah, I mean, even like pretty often I'd be like, well, I have energy to spend, and I'll spend 4 to just draw 2 because that's still really good advantage if I don't have anything else to play for the turn. And then when you can think that this could be a 2 or a 3, and pretty much late in the game, like it's almost always a 2 and a 3, even though you have like it just doesn't hit your energy at all. You almost get like 2 cards just for free, and just combos with a lot of what Iona is trying to do already. So I think this makes sense for it. I don't think I could see it go up to a 6, because if it went up to a 6, that'd mean that it'd be over the spell energy cap. But I think 5 is probably fine. We'll see how it goes. I wouldn't be afraid to change this to a 6 though. Or even if they, I don't know, if this was like they changed it to a 5-drop but costs 3 less if you cast 2+ spells for a turn, or maybe cost 3 less if you cost 3+ spells, that would kind of make sense. But we'll just see how it's affected. Boom Crew Rookie, this is like 100% this change I wanted, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So it changed from a 1/4 into a 1/3. Boom Crew Rookie is a standout card in burn-based aggro decks with a high health and attack trigger, allowing for consistent Nexus damage over time. Decreasing its health makes the Rookie more answerable through both removal and combat, giving opponents a better shot at preventing multiple triggers from hitting their Nexus. Yeah, this was just too good. As like, if you considered the fact that it dealt 2 damage to your enemy's Nexus, it was like a 3/4 on turn 2, and the fact that it was a 1/4 meant you could do like a bunch of the one energy triggers on him as well, and he just was really difficult to get rid of, and he trades super well with a bunch of things on turn 2 and 1 and even 3. So it just means like he's almost guaranteed like 2 triggers unless your opponent like just puts a lot of energy into answering him, and they can just play another one for 2 energy. So making him a 1/3 makes sense to me. Even like if you were crazy, you could make this like a 0/4, and so even though it swings, it only deals damage to the enemy Nexus. That would be kind of an interesting buff nerf in my mind. But I think making it a 1/3 is fine as well. It's probably the safer and less crazy idea, but there's that. Next up, we got Brood Awakening from 5 to 6. We are reverting a change we made to Brood Awakening during beta, where we wanted to buff Spider decks in the wake of nerfs to Mark of the Isles, Crowd Favorite, and Frenzied Skitterer. In the end, this change overly pushed the raw efficiently of Brood Awakening to extent that it's become overly potential as a defensive tool in control decks or kill your own units combo decks. I mean, if you count like a 2/1 is about like a 2-drop is about a 2/2 in power. Like this was definitely kind of over tempoed, and I can understand, like, I don't know, the big thing about like changing numbers like this is that some cards just kind of are in between, where cards are really good at 5 energy but like really bad at 6 energy, and you have to make a decision of do we want it to see too much play or no play at all, right? And I don't think this is going to be a case where it's going to be not played that much. But I think definitely they hit the nail on the head, where a lot of control strategies were like, well, I've got a bunch of energy open, I guess I'll just make a bunch of 2/1s, and they trade super well with things, and they're also spiders, so they get the benefit for there. So I think that's a good call. Okay, let's see. So we're just in the Longtooth allowed Chum the Waters to be a bit less punishable and more reliable, especially in expeditions. where associate decks have been struggling. Chum the Waters can now be played without an enemy unit in play. This is actually bug fist. It should allow for added versatility. Okay, they gave it, made it a 5/2. I guess that just makes it like slightly better. I don't know. We'll see what this is. I don't think it's like crazy good. 2 health isn't really nothing, especially when you're playing a 4-drop, but I could definitely see it. All right, Monkey Idol. Really like this idea. So giving Monkey Idol, changed it from a 0/4 to a 0/5. Giving Monkey Idol the potential to create another monkey should make the effect more meaningful and create more an interesting, satisfying decision around when to play it. Yeah, so I think making it a 0/5 is super cool. Having the potential for 1 more tick is great, and if your opponent just deals 1 damage to it, you're still like guaranteed like they'll have to deal 3 damage to it to get rid of the second monkey. So I think it's a cool call, and we'll see if people are using it more. But I like this change a lot. And lastly, Slotbot. They're changing it from a 0/3 to 1/4. We're giving Slotbot a simple stat boost to help it get the reels spinning a bit more quickly. I haven't seen this card played ever, so maybe people will start playing it, but there we go. Quickly, some stuff they're thinking about. Unyielding Spirit. I definitely hate this card, so if they decide to change it somehow, I'd probably, like, for the worst, for Unyielding Spirit, I'd be okay. And I don't know, actually I didn't read if they changed the interaction with it with the powder kegs, but I think that's just a silly thing that the powder kegs stay around if you use Unyielding Spirit on them. Pilfered Good and card stealing. Losing against your own cards when an opponent's draws from your deck can be a frustrating experience, especially if you're playing with deck buffing Freylord's effects. Pilfered Goods is a particular culprit as the power level is rather high, and drawing multiple cards is more likely to create all the perfect card situations. We're investigating possible adjustments that can make the ease of this pain surrounding the mechanic. To me, I guess like the biggest thing, they can never draw champions, I believe, with Pilfered Goods, but if they, instead of taking it from your deck, if they just made a copy of it from your deck, maybe that would be a bit better. Just so you could still have the potential for drawing the card yourself. I think this is a sticky and maybe other video topic to talk about. Nexus Damage to Rising Tides. Rising Tides thematic mechanics increase the amount of direct damage Nexus damage available to players. We've seen some problematic, potentially overloaded Nexus damage decks that rise as a result, and we've made some target adjustments in this past aimed at making early damage more preventable. Access to healing is another potential lever for the regions that boast it, and we've adjusted a few cards to provide better solutions. The scope of this issue is rather large, so we'll continue to monitor and the effects of the change over time. And then Carmen Ezreal too. That was kind of like on their watch list, and so they're still there. But and then there's the Poros and stuff, and you can spend money on emotes and stuff. So I think that's it. Is there any like bug fixes? Let me see if they did anything with. I don't think they did, but let me just control find this guy. All right. Okay, they just changed it. So I think they still have the, if I just type keg. Okay. So yeah, it looks like that interaction is still around, which is probably fine, but we'll see how it is. But this has been like 30 minutes of talking about this game. Hopefully that's not too much. I'll probably start doing live streams. I'm planning on tonight, as in like the video, Wednesday night, the 27th, I'll probably be doing one. And we'll just go from there. We'll see if I like playing this game and making content for it. I always had difficult with digital card games making content, because it's just, making videos for it didn't make as much sense. It's just like saying, here's a deck list, try it out. But we'll see how that is. If you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, let me know. If you have any decks you want me to try out or any ideas, please let me know too, and I'll do my best, even though I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around it. And that really should be it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about these changes, and I'll catch you all next time.